Over at DC Comics, Superman Son of Kal-El was a revolutionary title that managed to break so many boundaries in terms of social issues. But what most people don't realize is that in addition to that series breaking some of that ground, there was also so much fascinating plotting utilizing the characters of Wildstorm and kind of teasing the fact that the DC universe was headed in this direction. Plus, readers even sort of got a look at Tom Taylor, the author of the series, utilizing a previous Suicide Squad run to build a sort of meta narrative between all of the different titles. My name is Arako Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and dive into a brand new Jonathan Kent Superman title with Adventures of Superman Jon Kent #1. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our contents. And I want to introduce this brand new Superman series by reading off DC's solicitation text, giving you some insight into the story. Another Superman has fallen. Across the multiverse, Kal Els are being murdered. Val-Zod, the Superman of Earth 2, believes only one man can help stop the killing: Kal-El's son, Jon Kent. Jon will have one step across dimensions and face the killer of the Kal Els, the monstrous Ultraman, the man who kidnapped and tortured him for years. And Val-Zod is not acting alone in trying to save the Supermen. Who is the mysterious woman alongside him, and what is her shocking connection to the Super family? And I want to go ahead and introduce the creative team behind this issue. This one is written over from Tom Taylor, featuring art from Clayton Henry, colors from Jordie Bellaire, letters from Wes Abbott, and we have a cover over from Clayton Henry and Marcelo Maiolo. Here is a quick look over at the cover from Henry and Maiolo as well. I really like this cover because it kind of, shows off such great composition and features such a beautiful image from Henry, but also sort of features a little bit of a graphic design tease that this is going to be the start of Jonathan Kent's sort of electric blue Superman era, which was sort of referenced in Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton. Plus, one of the sort of interesting new narrative elements that Tom Taylor is bringing aboard this new Superman title is actually some plot threads carrying over from Injustice, which we'll talk about really briefly. I want to give a quick thanks over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview of the new Jonathan Kent book so incredibly quickly. And I want to kick our review off by taking a look at some of Clayton Henry's art in the issue. Now, I've been a big fan of Clayton Henry's art for a really long time, but I felt like I started to see some different kind of techniques and page layouts and character designs and symmetry that really made this issue kind of stand out from what we usually get over from Clayton Henry. If you take a look at this page, I think it's like a great example of what I'm trying to express, because the fact that Superman has his back turned away from the camera is such a kind of like a bold visual choice to sort of kick off an issue like this. And then when Superman sort of like looks and turns to the camera, oh boy, is that sort of like a piercing gaze from Superman, showing off the fact that Clayton Henry is so good at capturing facial expressions for the different characters. And I just love sort of the way he draws Ultraman with the perspective of, Ultraman kind of, flying down from like all these skyscrapers, and just gives such like an intimidating look over at this character. All of these visual tricks sort of continue throughout the issue, and I was really surprised to find just how many sort of nuances are here in this issue, with Henry's art. The colors over from Jordie Bellaire, I think, really kind of help this issue pop a little bit more from a visual perspective. We're taking a look at Ultraman, using one of his powers here, and kind of like the sense of, the hot fire that we're seeing from the visual effects and the colors, as well as Clayton Henry's art, is something that I think will definitely, capture the attention of readers on a very visceral level, which is frankly so great to see from, a Jonathan Kent Superman book. Plus, I really like the fact that, Henry is able to draw Jon Kent as a little bit older in this issue. I felt like there was definitely such a strong sense of progression from the previous Jon Kent series over to this one, and sort of having, such like a distinctive point of difference was just a great way for me to differentiate both of these books from a more surface level. The writing from Tom Taylor in this issue is just phenomenal. I was really shocked at how many plot elements Tom Taylor was able to pull together over in this issue. In the solicitation, we read a little bit about the sort of kind of central threat facing all of the different Superman characters across different, realities. And sort of watching, Val-Zod and the Red Tornado sort of try and assemble Jonathan Kent to go ahead and take on the threat that's being established is just such like a great premise first way to introduce this series. If I had one major criticism about Tom Taylor's writing in the last book, I don't think every issue was as strong, from a plot perspective. And that was sort of like the main thing that I felt this issue of the series really improved on in the title. And I also appreciated the fact that even though there's so many big like status quo changes and things happening for Jon Kent, as well as the other characters, that Tom Taylor kind of slowly introduced the fact that Superman is now undergoing his, ginormous electric blue Superman era, but that it also kicked off over from Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton. I don't think that story in Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton was super clear, and I feel like the writing in this issue only sort of references that plot point and maybe doesn't explain it with enough context. I'm really hoping that in future issues of the series, Tom Taylor will sort of give more perspective on Jonathan Kent's Electric Blue era and what some of those powers mean for the character. Later on in the issue, when we went ahead and got Val-Zod, have some direct interactions with Jonathan Kent, I think the issue got incredibly interesting. I really enjoyed the way, Jonathan Kent and Val-Zod played off of each other. Plus, I love the fact that so many Superman characters are being sort of established in this series as well. And these characters are basically only brought into this series with this one issue, but there's already some really kind of, fancy sort of plot reveals that happen towards the end of this issue that I think should go on to make readers kind of really satisfied with their purchase of the issue. Really, even though it's such like a small script that Tom Taylor delivered for the issue, I felt like there were so many different plot elements that were captured in such a fascinating way. Also, I love the fact that Jonathan Kent was really able to sort of reference his past relationship with Ultraman and some of the horrors that he went through. And I especially appreciate that we're sort of like, digging up this plot thread over from an older writer from Superman, because I feel like this is something that could have been easily sort of like glossed over, and it could have made the narrative sort of not as intentional as it is on this particular issue. So I was really happy to see that. And also, I really think that Taylor does a wonderful job picking out some interesting guest stars in this issue. I was always shocked to see who was going to show up on the next page. And I feel like so many of the characters in the DC universe that are introduced here have really kind of kept me guessing. One of the things that we don't quite get to here, because I don't think there's enough page real estate, is the fact that Tom Taylor has said some very interesting things about the Injustice property. I personally found Injustice to be so sort of grim dark as a perspective of, Superman losing his wife and sort of going on a rampage. I never quite bought into that premise, and it always seemed really far-fetched. And I've read some interviews for this series, and it really seems like writer Tom Taylor is looking to take Injustice in a bit of a different direction. And I believe kind of some of the ways that those plot threads are going to be utilized is through, the Supermen or an Ultraman exterminating the Clark Kents of different realities. And I'm very excited to see sort of what new things Tom Taylor has to say about the Injustice property as a whole. So those were some of my thoughts over on Adventures of Superman #1 from DC Comics. I think this was a really fantastic issue that did a wonderful job bringing so many different plot elements of the series together to deliver on something, truly fascinating. I love the fact that this issue is carrying so many different characters and corners of the DC universe to really deliver on something. And I really have to appreciate the fact that when Tom Taylor has approached the Superman character, he's never really phoned it in. There's always been some fascinating aspect of DC continuity that's made this issue and or series really seem special. And the fact that we're taking on so many plot threads this early in the book has me pretty confident that we are on the right course for Adventures of Superman, Jon Kent. So I want to know from you, did you enjoy this issue? What were some of your thoughts on all of the different plot threads in this series? Did you like how Tom Taylor was utilizing these sort of different cast of characters across Superman's life? Well, I want to thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and I'll be back really soon for more excellent DC Comics contents. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.